Let go, let go, let go. I can let go.
Oh yeah.
Right now.
Right now.
New life is awaiting.
New life is awaiting. While I'm arranging these old facts of mine. My heart is making an authentic appeal. Such a sweet invitation. I wanted to abandon my vision. It's time to release. Letting go. Let God. Let God. Let go. I. Let go. Let God.
Let go.
I like letting go. Let God. Let go. Welcome to the way of mastery. The way of mastery. Let go. Let go. The power of God is guiding me. Surrender to what I've got to be. And deep within, God loves me so. I'm letting go. With God, all things are possible. With God, all things are bountiful. God loves you so. Let go. I'm letting go. I feel like letting go. Let go. Let God. I feel like letting go. The way of mastery. We want to go the way of mastery. If we can let go, the darkness will fade. I pray to let go. 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 Good evening.
Yeah.
Good evening online. Welcome to the Way of Mastery. I need to hear some truth. 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 Anybody else need to hear some truth?
Yes.
Yeah. I do. Welcome to Mola and Paris and a bunch of more folk that's hanging around. Marina, Kathy. Welcome to the Way of Mastery. I'm Earl Purdy, and I want to dive into this and just remember the only guidelines are that you need not believe it, accept it, or welcome it. Some of it's going to be hard to believe. Some of it's going to be quite startling. If you use it, you will recognize that it's true. And in the Way of Mastery, I'm going to be in the Way of Knowing on page 342, finishing up this section that's called The Difference Between Creating and Making. And I'm going to start off with the sentence that says, in making, the form becomes very important. I want to invite you to be on the lookout for your particular message tonight, the special message that's in this just for you. Because I'm going to be looking for the one that's in it just for me. If you're online, you can, by all means, communicate with each other, ask questions, make comments, and we're going to all be in this together and see what we can hear tonight. It says, in making, the form becomes very important. So if you're going to make something, the form of what you're going to make becomes very important. And the reason why the form of what you make becomes very important is because your egoic mind already believes it knows what things are and what things are for. Since all things are for the ego's safety and continuance. So the ego part of me, the part of me that wants it my way, that thinks I'm separate, that thinks I'm separate from God, that thinks I'm a body, that thinks I'm on my own, that part of me is a know-it-all. It thinks it already knows what things are. It thinks it already knows what things are for. And it thinks that the purpose of everything is to make sure I continue and to make sure that I'm safe. That there's a part of me that believes that it's all about me, and it's all about my safety, and it's all about me, and it's all about me. And then I say it's a part of me that believes it's all about me. So the way of mastery is saying there's a part of you that believes it's all about you, and it's all about your safety, and it's all about your continuance. Therefore, the form of how things are done becomes very important because form is image and not content. Form is something you're looking at, but you don't necessarily know what the content of it is. So you can look at something, I'm looking at you, but I don't know what your content is. I'm looking at everybody's form, but I do not know what your content is. I do not know exactly what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what your purpose is. So in creation, the form is as you most desire it to be because it gives you joy. Not because you believe that it will coerce someone else into voting for your party, for example. So in creation, the form is as I most desire it to be because it gives me joy. So if you're a creator, you want to express yourself in a form that's going to give you joy. If you're a creator, you want to do things in forms that give you joy. So imagine then if those of your actors and actresses were more interested in wearing clothing for their Oscar nominations that brought them joy as opposed to seeing how good they could look, what would be acceptable, what would be breathtaking, or what would grab the attentions of others. Rest assured, many of the actors and actresses would show up in their pajamas. So if they were going to do what gave them joy, they wouldn't show up at the Oscars probably wearing clothes that's not too comfortable, but they are very conscious of how they're going to look. So if you are a creator, you're going to do what gives you joy, and you're going to have the forms and appearances and the physical things that you do that gives you joy much more than you're going to do a form or an appearance that's based on how somebody else is going to see you. So if you really going to create and express yourself, you're going to do it in the form that gives you the most joy, regardless of what it looks like to anybody else. So how much in your life are you doing because you genuinely enjoy it as opposed to thinking about how it will look to someone else? In the course of love, last Thursday night, it was talking about how our inner meanings conflict with our outer meanings, and then it keeps us from having joy and happiness in our life. That a lot of times we won't do the thing that we really feel is right for us because we're too concerned about being accepted by society, our community, and everybody around us. So you think about how many times you might hide what you really think and what you really feel because you might be concerned about looking too weird or looking unacceptable to people around you. So the difference between making and creating is the difference between illusion and reality. The difference between making and creating is the difference between making is illusion, creating is reality. So reality is the love that is God. So reality is the love that is God. It is the Creator's will to extend love. You were created out of the will of the Creator, and therefore your will to express love is the will of God. They are one and they are the same. So my will to be loving to you is the will of God. At the point that I want to be loving with you, I am actually acting out of the will of God rather than acting out of my will. They're the same. So at the point that I want to be free, I'm acting out of the will of God. At the point I want to be loving, I'm acting out of the will of God. That's how you can tell. So, are there any questions or any comments about anything that I've covered in the paragraph so far, whether in the room or online? I had a feeling it wouldn't be. Okay. The egoic mind is interested in making love. The egoic mind is interested in making love. And online, if you have a question or comment, please feel free to share. I definitely am willing to hear what you got to say. It's also really important also. So the egoic mind is interested in making love. So that means it has very set ideas of what love should look like, what form love should take, how other beings ought to respond, what actions are all right, and what actions are not all right. So my ego is interested in making love. When the ego part of us is interested in making love, you can tell when it's your ego that's in charge of you wanting love, because if it's your ego wanting to make love or have love, then you have really set ideas about what the love should look like. You have very set ideas about what form the love should take. You have very set ideas about how other people ought to be responding to you and what actions are all right and what actions are not all right. Based on that, I have egoic love a lot. Because I definitely have a set ideas of what I think it should look like, what form it should take, how many beings, how people should respond, what actions are okay and what actions are not okay. But in creation, love merely extends itself with innocence. So when your will is one with your Creator, you're not in the least bit interested in making love. When your will is one with the Creator, you're not the least bit interested in making love. So there's a lot of times in my life my will hasn't been one with the Creator. Because there's been a lot of times in my life I've been very interested in making love. That's funny to think that when I was interested in making love, that I was not actually at one with my Creator. Because when I was thinking about making love, he just said, well, when you say you want to make love, you're saying you know what it should look like, what form it should take, how other people should respond, what actions are okay, and what actions are not okay. I think about even if you read in a lot of magazines about when they're just literally talking about making love, there's page after page after page devoted to descriptions of how that should be, how that should look, what's the way to do it, that's the right way to do it, what's not the right way to do it. And according to this, none of that has anything to do with real love. So you are only interested in celebrating the reality that you are already in love and you are already as the expression of love. So now when I tell someone, if I was to tell someone I'm in love with you, I don't mean it the way that people would think of it. It's like you jumping into a pool. You know, I'm in water. I'm in the pool. Well, that's what it should be when I say I am in love. I'm in love with you. You are in love. It's almost like the picture of, if you were to picture two people being in a swimming pool together. I'm in love with you. I'm in the pool with you. You know, and so usually when we say we're in love with somebody, we're actually saying to that person that you're doing the set of ideas I have about what love should look like. You are in the form I think love should take. You are responding to me the way I think that you should if you're in love with me. You're doing the actions that I think are all right, and you're not doing the actions that I think are not all right. So when the average person says they're in love, it just simply means you're acting out the script that I've written for what love should look like for me. That's why I'm in love with you. And this is saying to us that the truth is when you're saying you're in love, you're celebrating with the person the reality that both of you are loved and both of you are in love. And you are already an expression of love. So if I'm in love with you, I'm going to be seeing you as innocent and I'm going to be seeing you as perfect just as you are. So real love is me seeing you as innocent and as perfect just as you are. So the form of that expression becomes quite secondary. I think you are first and foremost innocent. I think you are perfect just the way you are. And then whatever way you express in yourself is secondary to me feeling that way about you. Many people do it just the reverse. I'm going to see you as innocent and I'm going to see you as perfect if you're doing it the way that I think you should.
Right.
So I get to you being okay after you're doing it the way that I think you should. Since it is merely a temporary instrumentation for the fulfillment of the heart's desire to celebrate the reality of being in love, the form of that expression becomes quite secondary, since the form of that expression is merely a temporary instrumentation for the fulfillment of the heart's desire to celebrate the reality of being in love. So let me then ask you this question. Is your own life, in your own life, in your own life, in your own life, do you exert energy in trying to make love happen? In your own life, are you always trying to make love happen? Or do you celebrate that you're already in the presence of love? Do I get up already celebrating that I'm in the presence of you and in the presence of love? Or am I spending all day trying to make love happen? In your own life, do you exert energy in trying to make love happen? Or do you celebrate that you are already in the presence of love? Are you trying to make love happen? Are you trying to make happiness happen? Or are you all day long celebrating that you're already in happiness and already in the presence of happiness? It's a mixture for me. Sometimes I am totally freaked out with joy that I'm in the presence of love and I'm in the presence of joy. And sometimes I am trying to make it happen. I'm trying to make love happen. I'm trying to make happiness happen. As a matter of fact, I would venture to say, if you would look back over this day, you were spending this day probably a lot of the time trying to make the things happen today that would make you feel good and make you feel satisfied and make you feel happy. That's what most people do all day, rather than already celebrating in the presence of love. Any thoughts? Come on, y'all. Any thoughts? Any feelings? Anything?
Well,
Please.
I was in the middle of responding, but you can actually respond to it also online here. The question was confusion about the ego self-consciousness versus the creation of love versus, just some clarity on what that means, why making love would be an ego-based thing.
Well, it says right here, the reason why ego love is making love is because you're making up your idea about what it should look like. You're the one making up your idea about what form the love should take, and you're making up your idea of who should respond and how they should respond. That is you making. You are literally making up your idea of what love is. And that would be the ego. That would be the part of me that is trying to make it up, as opposed to the part of me that's trying to extend and create the love that's already there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's like when I think of creating love, I think of extending something that I already have.
When you think of making love or creating love.
Creating love, I think of extending it, not of making it. It's like I have to extend it if it's real. If it's real love, then I'm extending it because I am it and I'm in it and I'm surrounded by it, so I can only extend it.
And that's exactly the way I look at it too. That's exactly what it's saying right here. That to create something doesn't mean I'm making something out of nothing. It means I'm extending what's already there. So if I'm creating, I'm extending. The Course in Miracles says to create means to extend. So if I'm creating love, I'm extending love. If I'm making love, then I'm coming up with my ideas about what it should look like. So that was the question, right? Like, what was the difference between making it and creating it?
Well, and I think it's important to know, because we have some new people viewing tonight, that the way of mastery has a definition for ego that could be different than their definition for ego, and I think sometimes that gets in the way. But if I were to re-say that, I would say my fear-based mind tries to make love that fits my image. Whereas when I'm working in my God mind, when I'm working in my higher mind, then I am wanting to just extend regardless who's there and how. And I think that's part of
Yeah, and I would invite, and if you are new, what I would invite you to do is just for an hour, try to let go of your ideas of what you think things are. I think that's one of the reasons why the Course in Miracles, especially at the very beginning in the Way of Mastery, always bring up the issue of recognizing or being willing to say, I don't know all there is to know. Because what usually happens is anytime we do something or study something or come upon something new, what we want to do is fit everything into the concepts and ideas that we already have. And so we tend to be judging things based on, does it fit in with what I've already learned? And so that keeps us from really hearing new ways of looking at things. So when I'm sharing from the Way of Mastery, like for instance, when you were asking the question about the egoic mind, well, it actually gave the definition of the egoic mind that the Way of Mastery was using. It said the definition of the egoic mind, as far as the Way of Mastery is concerned, is just the part of your mind that has set ideas of what love should look like, what form it should take, how other beings ought to respond, and what actions are right and what actions are not right. So that's actually the Way of Mastery definition of ego. And then it went on to say, in creation, love merely extends itself. So it's important to recognize that since you're looking at a new curriculum, this new curriculum has its own definitions of words that you may already be familiar with, but you have a different set of definitions about. So it would make it really challenging to think of the way you look at the word ego as necessarily being the way that the Way of Mastery is defined in the word ego. So in order to go into any new curriculum or any new teaching and really hear it, it's important to temporarily be willing to suspend your ideas about what you think things are and what you think things mean and what you think things are for. Or else you could spend an entire hour just analyzing your version of ego versus the Way of Mastery's version of ego. My version of what love means versus what the Way of Mastery's version of love means. And so that slows down the process of hearing what the new thought system is saying and look at it like, okay, I'm willing to look at it from this point of view and see what gifts that it has from this point of view, which is my ego is the part of me that thinks it knows what love is and how people should behave and act. The created part of me wants to extend the love that's already there, the innocence that's already there, and the truth that's already there. That's why books like this are very challenging to teach, because our ego mind is much more interested in how can you tell me how to make something the way that I want it to be, rather than I am willing to learn how to get my ego out of the way that I think things should be out of the way, enough to let creation and love express itself through me, which would be the easiest way to do it all. It's trying to give us an easier way to do it. So thank you for asking that question. And like it said, the desire to make love fits a specific image. I want to swim in the divine pool of love without expectations of forms and scripts, like CJ has said. That's where the new experience is really going to come from. It's going to come from me being willing to let go of my specific image of what I think things should look like so that I can have something new come into my life that's completely unlike anything I've ever done before. I'm in the process right now in my own personal experience of telling the universe I'm totally willing for it to change everything in my life that needs to be changed in any way that it needs to be changed in order for me to go to whatever the next level of love and consciousness that it wants me to go to. Because I feel things in my life coming to a completion. I feel one phase of my life coming to a completion right now. And so I'm really having to open myself up to whatever the next level of expression is, which means I have to be willing to let go of my ideas of what things should look like, what form it should take, how other people ought to respond, what actions are all right and what actions are not all right. That's the attitude. If you're bored, if you want something new, if you want something different in your life, we were just told exactly the attitudes that we have to be willing to let go of in order to have a totally new expression of love in our lives right now. Shanae says, when I hear this, I surprise myself how often today I sat in gratitude and love. And Belletta says, making up love and expectations. And Sama says, it's creation versus projection, exactly. And Brother Jason is saying, I think that allowing our own beingness is the quickest path to allowing and acknowledging love in the present moment versus trying to create that which already exists. And Matthew says, the master said at one time, if you see me, you see the Father. This alone says everything within this master is the will of said stated Father. And that's what exactly right. That's what the way of mastery is saying to us right now. That you were created out of the will of the Creator, and therefore your will to express love is the will of God. They are one and the same. And Andrea says, I'm trying to accept that I truly don't know what love looks like and what love is. That's interesting. I'm trying to accept that I truly don't know what love looks like and what love is. And if I actually think about this, Andrea, if you were really willing to accept that you don't know what love looks like, it's a possibility that love could look like and be something better than you ever could imagine. You know, it's like, it's kind of, for me, I realize how egotistical that I used to be in thinking that I knew what was best for me, as if there couldn't be something even better than I could imagine. You know, I'm so arrogant that I think I know what everything should be like to be perfect for me. But at the same time, I understand why you would do that, because we're taught to do that from the day we're born. That's what the minute we get here, we get, okay, you need to come up with what's going to make you happy, and you need to come up with what it should look like, and you need to come up with how everybody should support that. And that's where all the grievances get cooked up. All the grievances get started from that formula that we come up with of what things should look like and what people should be like. And then I'm upset about that, and I'm upset about them because it doesn't look that way.
Because if this was different, I'd be happy.
Yeah, it's always if this were different, I'd be happy. Or if it was the way that I think it should be like, I'd be happy. And that's a hard habit to break, even though there's no evidence that it ever really works. You would think that something that you would see fail as often as that does, you wouldn't be so addicted to it. When you think about how many times in your life you tried to control the behavior of everything and everybody outside of you in order to feel good, and how little that actually succeeded, it's funny that your mind continually tries to get you to do that, because it tells you just haven't found the right person yet that you can control properly. So that's really basically what you're saying. I haven't found a person that's going to let me do this the way that I want to do it. And then sometimes you meet people who will tell you that's exactly what they want to do more than anything, is to do whatever would make you happy. As a matter of fact, that's the best bait that you can possibly do, is to walk up to a person and say, yeah, I'm on the planet to make you happy, baby. Whatever's going to make you happy, that's exactly what I want. Just tell me what it is, and I'm going to try to do it. And people fall for that every time. You know, it's amazing how easy it is to hook somebody by simply promising to make them the center of your focus of everything in your life. It's their happiness.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Be my world.
That's a big responsibility.
Yeah, it's a big responsibility, but
it
it works. It just works so often. It's what's so funny about it. For a little while, it appears like it works. Then it goes on to tell us, say, let me then add, okay, for in the former, you must coerce, when you're in your egoic form of making, you must coerce other beings to join your making. So I got to get you to go along with what I want to do. I have to persuade you of how you ought to be behaving and performing and accepting. I have to tell you how you need to be receiving so that you feel you have succeeded in manifesting what you have already determined in the mind. Making love requires others. Creating love, that is, extending love requires nothing. Making love requires others. Creating love requires nothing but your willingness. So if I want to have love in my life, it just requires my willingness and my welcome to have love in my life. If I want to make love in my life, I got to get other people and things involved and get them to do it the way that I want them to do it. So it kind of means that if the smartest way to go about being happy would be going about the way of being happy that doesn't require others. Mm-hmm. That doesn't require, what do I mean? Doesn't require you to coerce other beings to join your making and then try to persuade them of how they ought to be behaving, performing, I like performing, accepting, and receiving. if you are going to live your life that way, then that's going to require others. So every time you make your happiness dependent on someone else's behavior, that's the slower way. If you're creating love, it just requires your will and your willingness, which means you are perfectly free and do not need the world to show up in any certain form before you decide to be in love. So creating love means you're perfectly free. How do you be perfectly free? Then I become perfectly free by not requiring the world to show up in any certain form before I can decide to be happy and I can decide to be in love. So love does not require others to do anything the way you want them to do it.
Because if it's real, you can do it now.
Yeah, if it's real, like the Course in Miracles says, love waits on welcome, not on time. It's not waiting on a certain amount of time or a certain amount of things on the outer to change. It's my willingness to welcome it and have it right now. But the ego is that ego mind, that ego thought is so powerful that all day long, right before I came here, I had to remind myself, hey, you're listening to the voice that you're making up. That's the insane roommate that's always telling you something that's not true. I had to just catch myself when I was in the shower. It was like, this need to be different, that need to be different, this need to be different, that need to be different, they need to be different, this need to be different, just pointing out everything in my experience that sucked. And I was like, whoa, you know what I'm saying? It was like, it got to the point that I had to just actually stop right in the middle of washing my back. You know what I'm saying? And go, get back off! You know, just back. It's like, and I realized that's what it was doing. It was a voice inside of me that was telling me everything that everybody else needs to do, how they ought to act, or how they ought to behave, how they ought to perform, what they should be accepting, what they should be receiving. And it was so obvious that was what was causing the unhappiness, was listening to this insane voice that always never shuts up and never stops talking 24 hours a day, 7 days a freaking week, even going into sleep. Mm-hmm. It never shuts up. And then it's like, okay, I know I must be getting beyond it now, because now I can objectively look at it and go, wow, this is insane, where I used to think I was that voice. That I used to think that really was me talking to me. And I said stuff like, I'm talking to myself. It's like, no, I'm not talking to myself. It's a voice that I made up that's talking to me. But I'm not talking to myself, really. Because myself never gets involved with the insanity of thinking that its happiness is based on other people's performances. He's just said that. My true self is saying to me, you're perfectly free, and your happiness does not depend on any person or the world showing up in any particular way. And I was watching that part of my mind literally making a list of people, places, and things that were keeping me from being happy. And I know y'all don't know what the heck I'm talking about, right? No, I know nobody knows what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, and so I was like, oh, wow. I realized that part of me must really feel threatened right now. That part of me that's used to being in control, that's coming up with the wrong plan for my happiness, it has to do with what's not there or who's not there. Mm-hmm. And that's what it's saying right here. When you are in love, love will guide the expression of form. That is truly how simple it is. You will know right away if a smile is enough, whether to another human being or to a leaf on a tree. You will know, if you are with another, exactly how to express it. If I'm in love with you, I will know in each moment exactly how to express it. If it's love, I don't have to try to make up how to express it. If it's love, I'll know how to express it. I'll be the expression of it. And it says there will not be a question if it's love. There will not be a doubt if it's love. So if I'm sitting up here asking myself, am I in love with this person? Am I in love with my job? Am I in love with anything? No, I'm not. Because if I'm in love, if I'm being loved according to this, there will be no question. There would be no doubt. I wouldn't have to ask you if you love me. If it was love, I wouldn't have to ask you if you love me.
I love that. Love will guide the expression of form. So remembering when I'm trying to create a new experience, to keep asking for guidance and love to guide that expression, to make no decisions on my own, and to see where that takes me and not think that I'm doing it myself.
That's right. And I totally join with you on that, and thank you for saying that. You know, it's really a trip to go to that level of consciousness. It said the highest level of consciousness that the ego mind can go to is the level of consciousness where you begin to suspect you may not be your ego. He says that's the highest level of consciousness we can go to, is when you get to the point that you begin to realize you may not be what you taught yourself you are.
That's right.
And you may not be what you've learned to think of yourself as being. And when you talk to most people, you can tell it's almost like they're programmed robots who are saying back to you everything that they were taught about themselves without really asking themselves, who am I beyond what I've been told that I am? Who am I beyond all the concepts that I was taught? Who am I beyond the concept of being a body and a man? You know, who am I beyond being an American? Who am I beyond anything that I've been taught that I am? And it's saying here, you will know if you are with another exactly how to express it. There will not be a question. There will not be a doubt. There will be no interference of the fear-based mind. There will be no fear. So if you are expressing love, there is no fear. So if I love you, I have no fear. I have no distrust. I like to say that word trust, because sometimes people go, oh, I don't have any fear, and I go, well, do you have absolute trust?
Right.
And all of a sudden you'll watch their shoulders slump, because immediately they know that they don't. That they don't have absolute total trust. There wouldn't be any jealousy if I had absolute total trust. There would not be any anger and insecurity. I wouldn't be holding you responsible for what I'm going through if I had absolute trust in love and absolute trust in you. So I think one of the hardest things about getting on the spiritual path is when you have to admit to yourself the truth about where you are, and usually you'll recognize it's not where you thought you were. That you're not as loving as you thought you were, that you're not as trusting as you thought you were, or that you are not as free in your mind as you thought you were, or you're not feeling truly as innocent. Because your body, your physical reality, will always witness back to you what's really going on in your mind and what's going on inside of you. So I think it's great that I'm seeing where I'm not loving, where I'm not trusting, where I'm trying to make people be the way I want them to be. I'm glad that I'm beginning to catch that that's what I'm doing. Because that's the first stage to getting to love, is recognizing what is not love. That's how you recognize love, is by learning what it's not. So it says, for when the mind is truly in the will of God, there is no time. Since there is no time, there is no reference to the past and no reference to the future. So what would that mean? If I was really loving you, then I wouldn't be constantly referring to what you did in the past, and I wouldn't be referring to what might happen in the future. I'd be totally present with the love and the appreciation and the union and the joining that we're having right here in this moment. And I find that one thing that I notice in special relationships is you can be enjoying a relationship with somebody and they'll stop and go, okay, I know we're having a great time, but where is this going?
Yeah.
Any man can tell you that question has come up in almost any female relationship that he's ever had. It's like you be having a great time, y'all enjoying each other, y'all just relating each other until she'll drop that bomb on you sooner or later. Okay, where is this going? And what did you do in the past? Immediately, just like you said, now and we're getting ready to make love. Now we're getting ready to come up with how we should be behaving and acting. So now we go, and it works both ways. It can work just as much from the male to the female or whatever. But y'all know what I'm talking about. You know, we're really enjoying ourselves right now, and then we start thinking about what's going to happen. You could be meeting somebody at a party. It could be as simple as you just met somebody at a social situation, and you all had a great time with each other, and then you'll be thinking about how can you make that happen in the future. So then it becomes, can I get their phone number? Are we going to go out? Are we going to talk? And so now I didn't realize I had just gotten into my ego the minute I was trying to project that relationship into the future and what it should be like. And then I would get upset if it didn't go any further. You know, why didn't this person call? How come they're not in my experience anymore? I could go through that all the time as a teacher. You know, why aren't people here that used to be here? Who's going to be here in the future? And then completely miss who's sitting in front of me right now. Because I'm comparing to past times and what might happen in the future. So he's telling us the difference between what? Love and fear. We're being given exact, because I have found out that most things that people are calling love is just a really pleasant form of fear. It's fear we like, but we call it love. And so it says, but when the mind is truly in the will of God, what? There is no time. Since there is no time, there is no reference to the past and no reference to the future. For these things abide where? In the duality of time. These things are not part of what alone is eternal. The past has passed away. The future is at best just a fantasy in your mind. The future is just a fantasy. The future is a fantasy. So when I'm having a fantasy, that is me thinking about the future. Because usually when I have a fantasy, it's about something I'd like to experience in the future. So fantasy, in this context, is synonymous with the future. So when I'm thinking about my future, I'm really thinking about my fantasy. And it says, the present is where love abides. The present is where God abides. The present is where we are. So we could be having an incredible experience with each other right now, except we are not a part of each other's fantasies. Whereas, you know how you with a person that you think is going to act out your fantasy or meet some need or who's going to give you the specialness and you have a totally different attitude around that person than we have around each other right now. Yeah. And that's what it's trying to. So we miss what we could be experiencing with each other right now because of our fantasies of what we think we'd like to experience and whether or not you're going to do it. And so if I don't think you're going to do it, I'm not going to give you a whole lot of my attention. And that's why I don't get excited about people.
It's like a drug when you meet somebody that way. So, I just like,
It's like a drug when you meet somebody like what?
Like when you're projecting and what they can do for you and how you want to experience more of that. And it's almost like you can't help it, though. So how to let go when you recognize that you're doing that and release it.
And most people don't recognize they're doing it.
Yeah.
See, to me, the fact that I'm sitting up here and I can say to you that that's what I'm doing is a miracle. Yeah. You know, the fact that you can recognize that you're doing that and then you make the decision that you want to start doing it different. I'm just glad that I've stopped going in that direction, even if I still have the after image of still doing it. You know what I mean? I still do these things. What I've noticed is that I'm decreasing doing it. And that's what I'm doing, patting myself on the back about. Is, I still have scripts. I just don't have them as much as I used to. I still have expectations, but I recognize they're my expectations and I let it go. So I'm not going to beat myself up in the process of letting it go. That's gotten real old to me now. You know what I'm saying? That whole thing of thinking I'm supposed to stop a lifetime worth of program because I heard somebody say something in the class one night and then I should be able to just stop all of my old habits immediately because I've heard what they do to me, you know, is the same as saying just because I go to a class on how to fly a plane and the instructor tells me about how to fly a plane, I should be able to go out there in the hangar, get one and fly off. You know, and that's kind of the way I see troop students approach these books when they study. Like, they hear about what unconditional love is supposed to be like, and then they beat themselves up because they know they don't know how to do it yet. You know, or they hear that love is not jealousy, then they beat themselves up because they know that they're stalking somebody. You know what I mean? So so the important thing is to remember that just because we're being given instructions about a better way to be, it doesn't mean we have integrated it and can apply it right now. We're just at that stage of, oh, okay, this is what I'm doing. I want to stop doing that now. So any thoughts, any questions in the room, online?
A few comments. Summer has me laughing. She says, darn it, Earl, I just finished my list of what a loving relationship feels like.
Oops!
Should I burn it?
Yes, burn it. No, what I would do is it's not saying that I don't have preferences about things I'd like to experience. I just don't want to confuse it with love.
Yeah.
I used to use the analogy all the time of, if I'm eating an ice cream cone and I realize it's an ice cream cone, I'm not going to go into therapy when it's gone, because I knew it was temporary while I was licking it. So if you're going to give yourself an illusion of fantasy, it only hurts you when you forget it's a fantasy. Just because you made your list out, it does. Now you know, because you come up with what it should look like and how it should be, you know that's what it is. It's your fantasy. And there's a possibility you may temporarily experience that fantasy. But if something should happen and that fantasy leaves, and you realize it was a fantasy, you won't be bent out of shape, you won't be freaked out, and you'll be able to move on. See, that's the advantage I see of it. Is that if I recognize it's a fantasy, like now that I know the difference between special love and real love after all these years of studying it, then I find I don't get as upset with people if they break up with me, or they don't think they love me anymore, or they choose to go somewhere, because I understand that we do specialness here. That's what we do. We haven't learned how to do love yet that has nothing to do with what the other person does. So you have to realize the truth even if the other person doesn't. Even if they think that's still love, you know it's not. So you should be aware enough to know that the person is making up all the scripts for how you should be. Then you got a good chance that if you don't act those scripts out, that person is going to move on. If you recognize that somebody who loves you is accepting you as you are and seeing you as innocent and know that their happiness comes from them, then you know that's the person who knows what love really is. Anybody coming to you any other way, you know that that's just their fantasy, their specialness, and that's a possibility that they're going to become disillusioned with you and they may go their own way. So then you wouldn't be so hurt. So yes, by all means, if you want to have it be a certain way, and if you say, I make no decisions by myself, and I'm going to ask the Holy Spirit's guidance every step of the way, it's a possibility you can have whatever that fantasy is, as well as your real needs being met, which is a good deal. But I have to not fool myself. It's the fooling myself that's creating the pain. It's me thinking it's love when it's not love that's creating the pain. So by all means, Summer, doesn't mean you have to give up what it is that you would like to have in a loving relationship. As a matter of fact, the list that you may have written out, I haven't seen your list. For all I know, your list could be saying the things that I've said tonight. On your list, you could be saying, I want someone that sees me as innocent and loving and spirit and is union, and we're going to be in love together, and we're going to wake up together. You know, if you do a list like that, that's not really a fantasy. That's reality. All you did was said, I want a real love. So so don't burn your list until I see if it sucks or not. You know, show me your list. Yo, you might have a cool list, son.
Is she taking applicants? Is she taking applicants?
That's right. Are you taking applicants? You know what I'm saying? That's important. So don't burn it, baby. All right? So I'm going to go a little bit into abiding as love in each present moment. Don't forget, you all, you can't lose. We are being taught you cannot lose. 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 With love and truth, you cannot lose. You cannot get into what we're studying and lose. What we are studying guarantees that we will not lose love. It's the guarantee that we will have love. And in the premise of New Thought in the course, in the Way of Mastery, is trying to get us to know that the part of us that doesn't know we are loved, it's not interested in learning what's going to really give you true love. And what we are learning is where true love is coming from. So in each present moment, it says abide. So how do you abide in love in each present moment? Well, it says the peace of Christ, which is the peace of love, depends on your willingness to live in the present for no other reason than to extend creation. What does that mean? It means to be one who receives love. How do you receive love? You acknowledge the presence of love, you breathe love, and you allow love to flow through the body, mind. How? Through your voice, through what you write, through the wink of your eye, whatever it is, then you are done with it and you're on to the next moment. I'm going to express all the love that I can express to you all in this moment, and then I'm trying to be as peaceful and as loving and extended to you in this moment. And no matter what I do, whether I wink my eye, whether I laugh, whether I hug you, whether I'm sitting across the room from you, and then I'm done with what I'm going to do with you in this moment, and then I'm going to go on to the next moment. But in the next moment, I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to let go of the blocks to letting the same thing happen again, which is appreciating you in this moment, seeing you as innocent in this moment, being kind to you in this moment, supporting you in this moment. And then when this moment is over, what am I going to do? Well, in the next moment, I'm going to see you as the presence of love. It's me being willing to do the same thing or to have the same purpose every single moment, no matter how I'm expressing myself. Whether I'm walking down the street, whether I'm in the car, whether I'm in the classroom with you, my purpose never changes. It's to be the presence of love. What's really cool in this world is that the main people who recognize you as doing that is somebody else who also is doing it. And people who don't think love is letting people be in freedom, they are not interested in you, they don't notice you, and they don't even really, in most cases, interface with you at all. So you really are blessed with the people who don't know what love is not being interested in you, and the people who recognize love joining you. So you really end up in a more peaceful world. Because a person who is all about their fantasy and their script, they're not going to be interested in you if you're not going to act it out anyway. So what you just avoided is somebody who knows nothing about love, which can't be a loss.
Right.
Which really isn't a loss, unless what, Raj? Unless they fit what you made up that you think love should look like in your making of love.
Right.
That's when you get hooked. Like, you know, you're pretty cool, and you resist temptation pretty good. Nobody sucks you in until your fantasy walks through the door. Up to the end, it's amazing how people will say they have so much self-control in relationships, and I don't want you to just see me as a body, and blah, 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 blah. And they got all these rules until their fantasy walk in the door, and it's like, now, take me now. I want to go with you now. I got to have you now. They don't be waiting to the third date. You know what I'm saying? You let go of all those artificial rules when you really think what you want is available and you can have it. That's the hardest thing in the world to turn down. It's what you want, it's available, and you can have it. How are you going to resist that? It's what you want, really want, it's available, and you can have it.
You don't resist
You don't resist that. You can't resist that. You can have it, and you want it, and it's available, and you know it's what you want. Yeah, right. You're going to be Mr. Miss Discipline. You can't resist love. You can resist making love. You can resist fear. You can resist the fantasy. You can't resist love. And that's good. That's a good thing. So it says the peace of Christ, which is the peace of true love, comes only to that mind. So the love really comes to that mind that withdraws valuation from the past and the future, a mind that surrenders into the present, for only in the present can love be felt, only in the present love can be known, and only in the present love can be extended. That's the mind of a creator of love. And through that mind, what mind? A mind that loves in the present, feels it in the present, knows it in the present, and extends it in the present. He says, through that mind, the perfection of love's extension flows. And how does love flow? Without impediment, without obstacle, and without mistake. You can't love somebody by mistake. It can't be a mistaken love, is what we're being told. That love doesn't have obstacles. Love doesn't live in this place of mistakes. So if I have a real love coming through me, it's never a mistake to really love. And if I'm really loving, there's no obstacle. Do you know why? Because if I want to give love and extend love, that's coming from the inside out. So how can I have a block? How can I have an outer obstacle if I'm the one that's extending it? You may not want to receive it, but that doesn't have anything to do with my ability to extend it. So the mind then that is free, the mind that's free from the egoic need to make, to control, and to shape. So the way of mastery says that how can you tell if your mind is free? You can tell that your mind is free because you have a mind that doesn't need to try to make it be the way you want it to be, You have a mind that doesn't try to control, and you have a mind that's not trying to shape everything the way it wants it to be. It's a mind that's free from identification with the past. A free mind is a mind that's free from any kind of anxiety over the future, which is a mind that's living in the perfectly eternal right now. So when a person hears that, and sometimes that can sound like it's overwhelming, because you'll go, how can I ever be on that level of consciousness? How could I ever have that much, focus and be the truth? And the book is saying, you can't do it by yourself. 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 You have to join with your higher power. You have to join with God within you. You have to join with your spirit. The egoic mind always wants to do it the way it wants it to be and on its own and by itself. So a person that's really beginning to become a consciously evolving being, the first thing they know is that they can't do this by themselves. That's how you know you're waking up spiritually. You're getting away from I, me. It is a us, we. It's an us and a we. It's not an I and a me. It's a us and a we. So again, how can you tell when you're around someone that's waking up? You know immediately this is a person that's not trying to make you the way they want you to be. They're not trying to control you. They're not trying to shape you. They're not trying to deal with you in terms of the people that they dealt with in the past. They realize you're not the person that, I am not your last boyfriend. 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 I am not your last husband. I am no man that has come before me. Don't treat me like I'm the person that you were with before I got here. You're not the last woman I went out with. You're not the last. See, a conscious person knows they have to let you show up as you and not judge you based on other relationships that they've had before you. Right? And they're not so worried about where it's going because I'm not trying to get anything from you because I'm whole and complete. So I don't have to worry about where it's going because I don't need to get anything from you. I don't need you to fulfill me. So why do I need to be so worried about what's going to happen between us in the future? Deep. That's deep. He says, so for no other reason than to receive the awareness that the mind abides in love's perfect presence and then allows that mysterious reality through that mind right where it is, as it is. It says it does not need to make a show. A free mind does not need to make a show. This is not about having a prescribed set of activities to do. Oh my God, I'm so bored. I'm so bored with you. We need a prescribed set of activities to do if we're going to stay interested in each other. No, I'm merely present in the moment right now with you because love lives inside of me. So a holy relationship, what is a holy relationship? A holy relationship is where any two beings choose to come together and each of them individually chooses to be in the presence of love with each other. And when they're together, they go, whatever happens, happens. So I'm with you tonight, and I don't have a prescribed set of activities that need to happen in order for me to feel good with you. I'm being with you in the presence of love, in the presence of freedom, and we're going to see what organically happens while we're together because we're in love with each other. So just being in the presence of each other right here, right now is satisfying. And we're going to see what happens when we come together because we're so satisfied with who we are. God, I want to meet more and more people like that.
Yeah.
Jesus, that's so much easier than the people I used to go out with in the way I used to be myself. And I think about all the work I put myself through in the name of relationship. Don't you think about that? As you hear this, all the stuff you put yourself through in the past because you were doing egoic love that was based on all your expectations and scripts. And then if you didn't love yourself, you weren't going to even choose the person who was going to even try to do it. So my ego would make me hook up with somebody who didn't even want it the way that my fantasy wanted. It was enough just having the fantasy. If I didn't love myself enough, I'd make sure I joined with somebody who had no interest at all in acting out my fantasy with me. And then I would be spending all my time trying to guilt trip them into doing it. And I would call that love. That's crazy. When you hear it, it sounds crazy and cruel and selfish So when you hear the truth, all of a sudden it blows your whole belief that you're the little loving person that you think you are. You see that there's a part of you that's selfish and arrogant and only thinks about itself and just wants it its way, and it's all about you. Don't have nothing to do with the other person. You're only as valuable as you meet the needs that I've made up for myself. And if you don't, on to the next. But I see myself as such a loving person. Oh, I'm just the nicest person in the world. Ha! No, my ego is a little selfish, a little arrogant, a little childish, a little insecure thing. But that's not me, and that's not you. But that's who we identify with, and that creates the pain. So the truth is, love lives in you. And I'm going to say this one more time in closing. Holy relationship is where any two beings choose to come together, and each of them individually chooses to be the presence of love and truth. You and I are going to come together, and I'm choosing to show up. And I'm choosing to show up as love. I'm choosing to show up as sane. I'm choosing to show up as a conscious, loving being with you. And you are choosing to do the same thing, which means we're not showing up with the prescribed set of activities for the other one, which means we're present with each other in the moment, which means you don't need to make a show for me, which means that we are not going to be in anxiety while we're together over what's going to happen in the future, what happened to you in the past. It means that we are together to receive the awareness and to see what love really looks like, because if it's ever going to be anything other than what I'm reading in this book, I've got to be it and express it with someone else who wants to be it and express it. Then it's no longer just an intellectual concept. It's an actual experience and a reality that I'm living. But I've got to be mature enough to let go of that part of me that thinks your only purpose in my life is to act out the fantasy of what I think you need to do to make me feel the way that I want to feel. So let's acknowledge us for hearing this much tonight online, because to even show up, I want to acknowledge you for even being willing to hear it. Those of you online, we're going to do a quick little wrap-up of what we have heard tonight, which is really powerful. So let's do the financial expression of appreciation for those who would like to. If you don't, that's fine. You're innocent. I'm glad you came. So because it means a lot to me to have people that show up. Even though there are hundreds of people that are watching online, it's great to have people show up in the room, because I'd love to have the energy of us joining together. So those of you who physically come to the class, I really want to thank you for doing that. And those of you who are online, I want to thank you for doing that also. I'm available for one-on-one sessions called Clarity Sessions. Go to my website, earlpurdy.com, and it explains all the services that I'm happy to work with you on. And if you'd like to make a financial expression of appreciation, just go to my website, also, earlpurdy.com. I love how everything that's going on in the world right now is forcing people to make a choice. The choice of whether or not they're going to be the love, go inside themselves and tap that part of themselves that's the love, or whether they're going to continue to tell themselves that the government was different, if the president was different, if my sister was different, if my child was different, if my boss was different. There's just two kinds of people in the world. Those who are telling themselves that everything outside of them and everybody outside of them needs to be different for them to be happy, and those who are going, wait a minute, I'm the one that's choosing the way I see things, I'm the one that's giving it all the meaning it has for me, my happiness comes from me, the love is in me, I'm going to be present and be loving every moment I possibly can, and let my happiness be with me every second of the day. Those are the two people that are in the world. And love, and it just said to us earlier that love would come to us in the form that's best for us, that would allow it to express itself best. So we don't have to worry about what it's going to look like, or what they are going to look like, or what any of that stuff is going to look like, because if love is behind it, I won't have any doubt, I won't have any fear, there won't be obstacles, there won't be any impediments. It will be a totally peaceful, flowing, harmonious experience. So it's no such thing as I love you and I fear you. I love you and I hate you. I love you and I'm disappointed in you. At that point, what I'm saying is you are disappointing the love that I made up. You're being disappointing to me in terms of the fantasy I have about what you should be like. So when I hear myself talking that way, now that's an instant reminder that, okay, Raj, you're dealing with your made-up version. You're dealing with your made-up version of love right now because you're talking about what needed to be different and how they need to be different in order for you to be happy. So you're doing the ego love. And that's what you've been doing all your life. It's ego love. So your ego is kind of upset right now. You know, it wants you to keep on doing it that way, Raj, because that's the way you've always done it. Now it's time for you to stop.
And ego love sabotages it too.
But the ego is the part of the mind that says, seek it and don't find it. Seek it and don't find it. Want it and don't have it. Seek it where it's not available. Seek it where you can't have it. Seek it where it's not available. Seek it where you can't have it. And love is always saying, seek and you will find. That there's nothing that you seek from love that you won't find because it's already there. So are there any takeaways that anybody would like to share from what we heard tonight that they would love to remember?
I really love the distinction between making and creating.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually come up on several things for me in the last couple of weeks, and how making puts me in the role of competition.
Yes.
Whereas creating
yes.
really takes away the competition because we're doing something new. There's nothing to compare it to, and we're being very present in this now moment.
And I realized how much I missed because I wasn't in the now moment. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like I always here wishing I was there. I always here wishing something else was happening. So that making, so I want to join with you on letting go of making.
Yes.
I want to join with other brothers and sisters who are saying, I know I got a crazy part of me that's totally about control to make things be the way I want it to be, and I want to join with you on how can we be the presence of love and really appreciate each other and love each other completely right here, right now. Appreciate each other right here, right now. Anybody else?
So in creating, love is guiding the expression of form.
Right. Okay. Absolutely. Love is guiding the expression of form in creating.
That's what I like.
Great.
Demola is joining in and says, let us create holy instances from our holy relationships in every moment of time.
Absolutely. Let us create holy instances, which would be the same as saying, let us create loving, present instances from our holy relationships in every moment. I'm going to be present with you every moment I'm with you. I'm not going to be always thinking about what's going to happen next or what just happened. How can we express joy and love right now? Linda, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm just so grateful for the reminder to stay in the present, because it's so easy to get so caught up in the future and the past. But it's just great to have that in-your-face reminder to stay in the present.
And one of the things that makes it easier to stay in the present is to ask yourself, what is happening right now that I can appreciate? Mm-hmm. That would be the easiest way to do it. Like, I'm here with you right now. Am I going to focus on being appreciative of you right now, or am I going to be thinking about what I'm going to do after the class is over, or what I was doing beforehand? Anybody else? Any takeaway that they want to make sure that they keep in mind?
Can you see the note there from Andrea? I can't read the whole thing.
Okay, Andrea says, in love there is no past or future. It is in the moment, and what happens, happens. Yeah, we're going to let each moment form organically right now. So let's take a breath. And that's what I wanted to end this on. Can I just let go? Can I just let go? Can I let go of my fantasies, my making, the way that I think everything needs to be in order for me to be happy? Can I let go of all the scripts that I've made up for everything and everybody? One more time. That is Ricky Byers, for those of you who are wondering whose music this is. Ricky Byers Beckwith. Mighty companions, thank you for coming out tonight. Can we give it up for us? I love you. Hugs are available. Those of you online, thank you so much for joining us with the Way of Mastery.